Anybody got any questions? Any questions? 30 questions? Yes, go ahead.
Just a question on storage of documents. Is there a policy on storing them electronically? Can we scan them in, or do we have to keep the hard copies?
Could you speak up?
Can't you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. Storage of documents. Can we store them electronically, or do you have to keep the hard copies?
What sort of documents are you talking about, referring to?
There's receipts and all the paperwork that you were talking about earlier.
Type envelopes?
Yeah.
Scanning.
Can you scan them? Then there's a cost, isn't there? I don't know how many documents you're talking about scanning, but there'll be a cost.
No, I'm just asking what the position is. Are they acceptable in a scanned format to be stored, or do you have to keep them hard copy?
Yeah, you can scan them. So, type envelopes, Victor? Yeah. Yeah. That's more work and potential costs for you, but if your church wants to do that, that's fine. So did I see a hand? Okay, here.
One moment.
Just following on the question the lady asked, this morning you talk about storing the type receipts for about, the type envelopes for about 4 years. Now, I'm not a conference treasurer, I'm just the local treasurer. Does the conference treasurers, are they all aware of that fact? Because that's the first time I'm hearing about it. So are they aware of it?
It is communicated to them on a daily basis.
That they're aware that they have to, I'm just asking the question because I am not the chair of the
if you
conference.
think they're not, we can repeat it in our next communications to the treasurers.
Well, thank you. I was just wondering whether they're aware of it.
Next question. Michael. Go ahead. Oh.
My question is to Rejoice about the property insurance. In the north, do our churches need to go through the same process, or have you got something in terms of getting the revaluation?
It will be exactly the same process, but I will be sending out a letter to all the treasurers.
So we don't need to do anything yet?
Well, you can start the process. It will be pretty much the same cost sharing arrangement as was shared.
And also, is it contents insurance? I know in the past we used to submit, when we bought new equipment, we used to submit to the conference the extra equipment. Do you still keep a comprehensive list of all the equipment? Or do you have to start afresh?
Well, previously we used to have listings of what was on the contents insurance. That is not required anymore. So you need to keep your own list, as Graham was saying this morning.
Right.
And obviously you need to ascertain that the coverage is sufficient. If your equipment is more than the £10,000, then you need to request for the extra cover.
Right, okay, thank you.
As soon as if I can just expand on that, as soon as your list is compiled, especially if it's more than £10,000, I can't imagine too many churches having equipment less than £10,000. Most churches, even if you replace the chairs in your church or the pews in your church, would be more than £10,000. An average church would be more than £10,000. As soon as you do your list, you send it into the NEC or SEC, and then that is immediately conveyed to ARM. And then they hold that list and they make sure you're suitably covered.
My question relates to financial reporting. I understand that the conference does not have standardized templates or spreadsheet for reports, which are, I'm talking about the cash book and integrated with all the financial reports that widely presented. Why is it that the conference does not have that standard? Because we have two sets of reporting whereby bigger churches have got accrual-based type of reporting and smaller churches have got cash-based type of reporting. So why can we not have a conference providing that to us? If the churches do not want that, at least they've got that option that a standard one is available for them to adopt, and all the reports are integrated, and within the whole package. I'm talking about local treasurers, not conference.
I think the difficulty is the level of knowledge, accounting-wise, as far as those who are willing to do the job is concerned. In terms of the standard, I think in the book that Aftab shared in the morning, there is a standard template of how those reports should be prepared, and that is what we expect. However, we are mindful that in some situations, the people doing the jobs are people without that level of knowledge to be able to produce accruals-based accounting. Therefore, at the very minimum, we will accept cash and receipts and payments type of accounts.
Okay, so I think it's the person with the mic speaks and asks the question. Didn't want to sound rude, but...
Are you carrying on with her?
No, because I thought I was next. He just gave me the microphone.
Can we just finish her call first? Just let her come back. Just let her come back a second.
I think the electronic situation is what we are trying to sort of...
I'm not talking about the reports themselves. I'm talking about the spreadsheets that we use in order to produce the reports. The format is the same as in the manual because all the reports are included in the manual in the format that is required. But you need a spreadsheet to post all your transactions in order to come up with those reports. And if there's a standard, like a cash book or in which is integrated with the bank reconciliation, and then you produce the report, that I think will be appropriate for the local treasurers to adopt if they wish. My point is it should be available. If they don't want to adopt it, then they cannot. But if it should be there, why is it not?
Yeah, but most churches and treasurers, they have books or records or accounting systems already in place in the majority of our churches. So some treasurers have full-blown accounting packages that they use. Some treasurers don't want to use that; they're more comfortable with a spreadsheet, so they'll set up a spreadsheet. If you're more into spreadsheets and you're not able to set one up, then contact us and we can help you set up a spreadsheet. Other treasurers, because of their level of expertise or knowledge with bookkeeping, etc., and because of the level of transactions are kind of minimal in their churches, they're just happy with the old style cash book. We will work with whatever books or records the church will have. We don't want to be seen as being onerous on any treasurers, because as we are tremendously humbled and grateful to all the work that both conference and local treasurers do in our churches. And I remember when I first came into 23 years ago, when I joined the conference, I went out and audited one particular church, and I come from the auditing professions. I audited a particular church. I was quite demonstrative and firm on what should and shouldn't be there, and really panned them silly at the end of the audit meeting with the pastor and the treasurer got up and walked out and said, "I resign," and went off. We will work with you with whatever system you are comfortable with. We will help you and guide you. If you need help in a particular system, or be it cash book or spreadsheet or package, we will work with you to make sure that whatever you feel you're comfortable, we will help you. Next question over there.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask was, throughout this week so far, you've mentioned lots of documentation like local treasurer's guide, policies, etc. Rather than sort of posting those out to churches, wouldn't it be more effective and cost-effective and efficient to put them on a website so we could just download them when we need them, rather than just using postage? And also to have everything in one repository, in one place. Also things like insurance templates and claims forms and things like that.
With the insurance forms, I mean, what the process or the system at the moment is that they are processed through the conference officer. The conference office receives them, make sure it's all the details and all the documentation is there, and then it's forwarded on to ARM, TD, and then on to GC if need be. That's the response on the insurance side of things. Standard documentation, we can discuss. We can look at that if it's not to have put it on the website, so you can see standard requisition forms or standard reports that we're looking for. But yeah, we can do that.
My question is probably quite damning in itself on expose my church's behaviour thus far. I was elected as local treasurer this year, so I'm new to the role, but previously that for the last 2 years I've been supporting the local and conference treasurer with reporting, and we've talked a lot about reporting, a lot about communication that should be taking place at conference level and local church level. However, I've discovered through this retreat I'm not on my own when sometimes we're in the dark about a lot of information and a lot of people are surprised, and I appreciate the workload that you have at conference level. I mean, I'm within the North England Conference itself, and I appreciate you can't have personal contact with every single church, but I feel there's a lack of communication and a lack of information available. Just cut me off. After I picked up on the point earlier, when you're a new treasurer, it's quite often you take over a role that is a bit of a mishmash job, and he picked up on the point that when you hand over that post, to do as much as you can, but there's nothing at conference level to ensure fluidity. So I just wanted to know whether that's just lack of communication at my local level, or whether there's something in place that we don't know about, or what really. Yeah, like an introduction, like when you get a new job and you get like a introduction to kind of thing.
I think to be perfectly honest, one of the challenges that we have communicating between ourselves, the churches and the conference, is that we rarely get the information about changes that happen in areas of treasury in a timely manner. We always we most times come to know about the challenges. The changes when there's a challenge in the church. Mm-hmm. We're now in May, and I've not received any communication from conference about quarterly reports, any of the information that we've discussed in these conference. I don't know anything about it, so I'm just sat here thinking, are we doing nothing? Are we doing things wrong? What's happening at local level? Are you receiving any reports from the conference?
No.
So this is precisely my point.
But
maybe the person who is receiving that information is the former treasurer, because.
I've actually spoken with, I don't know if it's George or Jorge Fernandez, but I've actually gone through the process to become a signatory on the account. So my name, my address, my contact information is available at conference because I'm now the signatory on the account. But I could be anybody according to conference because they don't know who I am. They've not got me down as local treasurer, and I'm signing checks on behalf of the church. And we've talked a lot about accountability and transparency and all those things that make us trustworthy. But if at conference level my information is not communicated between people there. I don't know what I can do to resolve that situation if there's something that we're lacking.
Well, I mean, I really don't know what happened there, but but in a general sense, when personnel change, we are requested to when we are informed, we give the training when it's where it's needed. Yeah.
I think if I can say, touch base with any of the NEC Treasury team, and just give your details and just make sure, and that's because we do send out information on a regular basis. Just if you're not receiving anything, just simply just contact one of the team, and they should then it should be rectified. We in the SEC, we've actually told every single pastor, and we mentioned it at our elders retreat as well recently, that when there is a change of treasurers, to let us know so that we can come and train them straight away. So whether it's at the beginning of the year or during, sometimes there's many changes that happen during the year for various reasons. You have to resign because you've been called away to another district or to another country, whatever. We are here to support you and to train you. Any of our teams will come along and they will train you, whether it's in local treasurership or conference treasurership. We are here to train you. Just contact us. With respect to communication, are you just talking about specifically just for Treasury communication information or general church communication? Yes, you're in Treasury, okay.
Yeah, I've served in various other roles, and I'm currently serving within another post, and I get communication from the NEC directors of that department, but I've just not had any communication from Treasury.
Hopefully now.
Yeah, I've made my point.
You'll be a marked lady. Next one.
Just as a bit of information for this lady here, in all fairness to Treasury, to Conference, SEC, I've handed over Treasury after many years, and what I've done, you give all the information to the new Treasury. Obviously, they would have been working with you before you hand over for a little bit. Yes, you do give the clerk information of the new Treasury, and if I find that I'm still getting information, because somebody should be getting information, some of the previous treasurers should have been receiving, but if you haven't now as a new treasurer, you just call them. I mean, I just call Pauline and says, Pauline, I'm still receiving so-and-so, can you adjust this? And it's simple as that, really. We've got to work together, and things happen. Yeah?
I mean, if I could say one of our challenges in the South England Conference is that we have very poor. So I'm doing this because this light is right in my eye. I suppose you need the light, don't you? We find that generally in the local churches, local church clerks aren't as efficient as they should be. So changes happen, not just in Treasury, but in other departments, and it's not conveyed to us. If Pastor Messenger, our executive secretary, was here today, he would be expressing his concerns and his desperation of trying to get reports from church clerks. So you all sit on your church boards. Make sure that when changes happen, not in Treasury only, but in other departments, that is conveyed. And then the next board, just ask them: has the Family Life Director's name change been conveyed to the conference? Just as a matter of. But we, in the SEC at least, we find we get let down somewhat by the church clerks in many of our churches.
In regards to general liability insurance, we feed the whole 3 months, throughout the year we feed them every Tuesday night. For December, January, and February, they sleep in our church, in our youth hall, for 3 months. Do we need to inform you about the insurance for general liability for these people? We are from SEC.
Well, are you saying you use the youth hall for worship?
No, the youth hall is not used for worship. 3 months in every year, the homeless people in our community, we accommodate them every Monday night. They sleep in our youth hall. You sound surprised.
Graham, do you want to tackle that question?
If I can understand it, that's the thing. I don't understand what he's saying.
I think what he's saying, Graham, that they have, correct me if I'm wrong, you have homeless that you accommodate, feed, and allow them to sleep in your church hall. Do you need to separately inform us or ARM to ensure that you've got general liability? Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 months of the year, for every 3 months of the year, every Monday, you open your doors in the youth hall for homeless people to come in. Yeah. Do you need general liability?
Well, the answer to that is, as I said this morning, anyway, you have it. The issue is, if you're allowing people to come in, theoretically it would be better if you got them to provide insurance, but clearly in the case of homeless it's very unlikely. So in the case that you're citing, you are covered, but you should make sure that this is something which the local church board is happy with and the members are happy with, and then you're covered. The only issue is, and this is something we go back to again, because it's a general policy for the south or the north or whatever, if you do this kind of activity and it creates liability long-term for the policy, you're creating a situation where you're increasing the premium, and you may, the conference may want to get to a stage where it starts saying churches that create big liabilities may need to be charged for the general liability insurance. Because is it fair that the conference should pick up all that cost? I can't answer that. But all I'm saying is, yes, you're covered, but if you have claims, it will increase the premium. Yes? It's not a surprise. We're saying if you do it, you're covered. That's why the policy exists.
There's two here.
It's not. It's not.
1, 2.
It's not the activity.
Can I see the hands?
Oh, okay, I've got a couple of questions on insurance. The first one is the valuation that you were talking about. When do you need to get the valuation done? Because our church is still within a building project. At what stage would we need to revalue, and what's our position if something happens whilst we're rebuilding? Or not rebuilding, we're not rebuilding, sorry, we're extending. If something should happen to our church during the extension and we haven't revalued, what is the position?
What's your church?
It's an extension, Windsor Street. Graham, you need to answer.
Can we get the microphone to Graham now? Mike?
The issue is there's a builder risk.
Yeah, come to the mic. Or
Graham, maybe just come up here, so and join us for the rest of the session. Graham, just come up and join us. Oh, okay, good.
Okay, I thought we covered that one earlier as well, but the issue on that is that obviously if you've got an existing building which you're extending, first of all you will presumably have cover on the existing building. Now whether it's accurate or not, value-wise is another issue. And then when you're doing the extension, you're supposed to take builder's insurance, builder's risk insurance, which covers the building portion. So the combination of the two, the extension part and the actual value of the existing building, in combination, if anything happens during construction, you should be fully covered. Now, obviously, if it comes to getting a valuation done, a revaluation, it's a difficult one, but my view is if you're close to completion, it's better to wait until it's finished, because trying to get a valuation done when you're in building construction is a bit difficult. So, I mean, we've got like Stanborough Park at the moment. What we've said with that one is we'll get that done as soon as they've finished. Now, it seems to be taking longer than we thought, but it's my home church, and I don't know how. When are they supposed to finish that now? May? June? September? It keeps moving. But does that answer the question? Because I think we did sort of cover that earlier. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, during the project, the contractors themselves should have insurance as well. But still, there's... Yeah.
They should, but as I said this morning, very often in the small print, they abrogate responsibility. And if you sign the contract not knowing what you're signing away your rights. Yeah. As I think we found in a couple of cases.
My second question was on the off-site cover and what you call the campers insurance. We've always been told that Pathfinders have their own insurance. Is that the same as the off-site insurance, or is it separate?
I didn't. Off-site?
I'm asking if the off-site insurance cover...
Campers insurance, Pathfinders, it's the same thing, really.
It's the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you need it if you've got people off-site.
My question is about relating to the question that was asked about the spreadsheets. In answering that question, you said that some churches have full accounting packages. I would like to know what packages they are using and how we can access those packages if they are there.
Yeah,
that is for local treasurers, not conference treasurers.
Sure. Yeah, they've done their own research. For many of them, it's packages that they've used before, or ones that they've looked into, so there's a wide range of different packages out there that different treasurers are using, depending on their experience or past or present.
Is it like any treasurer can just choose what accounting package to use, can just go and find a package to use and we can just use it?
Yeah, I mean,
or is there a package that
you can choose whatever. There's a whole menagerie of packages out there that you're free to use, and whichever you feel comfortable or more at ease with. Whenever we come to audit you, whoever the auditor is, he will be able to order whichever package, whichever spreadsheet system you use, or whichever books you still may be using. They will be skilled enough to audit whatever system they find in your church when they come to you.
Is there
if you need help in choose the package,
is there a list of packages that you would recommend to be used?
At the moment in the NEC, we are using a package called Church Power. First and foremost, we are using it to do tithe and offerings. However, you can also use it to do your local accounting, which is, it doesn't require you to have a separate license. So it's a matter of arranging to have that rolled out to your church. Okay?
Okay. We'll get in touch with the conference regarding that in that case. The other question I had was regarding the buildings insurance. Things like cracks, if, for example, the building has cracks or leaks on the roof, are those things that we should be claiming insurance for, or they are wear and tear? Which category are they?
It depends really whether they are wear and tear or whether they're as a result of some action that's taken place. I mean, if it's wind, hail or something, that's a different issue. But if it's purely wear and tear, it's not claimable. But what we tend to say is if you've got any question on it, put a claim in anyway and it will be assessed. You can't lose that way. you may just not get coverage, but we'll do everything we can to provide coverage. But if you know from the beginning that it's because you should have repaired 3 tiles six months ago and didn't do it, you're really wasting your time, because believe me, the assessor's not stupid. He can tell from the damage that's being caused whether it's a recent thing or whether it's been an ongoing problem. Probably not, no. But I'm not, it's quite probable that it's claimable, but I mean, I'm not in a position to answer a specific question because it depends what caused it. I'm answering politically now because I can't answer the question. You've heard of politicians. It's something basically that assessors have to determine, and I don't deal with that, so I can't answer it. But if it's claimable, it will be covered.
I mean, to give you 2 instances of cracks. One example many years ago now of an instance of crack was near to the wall outside the church. There was this huge, glorious, magnificent, huge tree. But it, you know, as it's got older and wiser and bigger, and it kind of leaves spread and it blooms in the summer and everything, but the roots were mischievously making its inroads underneath the foundation of the church, and that caused a crack. I think that one was claimable. And then the other instance, subside and such forth. But as Graham says, you really need to put a claim in and let the loss adjusters make the decision on whether it's claimable or not.
And I would emphasise again, if you've got something to claim, claim it anyway. It's always good to put it in. The worst that can happen is it's rejected. If you don't put it in, you're not going to get anything. So you can't lose by putting a claim in.
Thank you. Yeah, my question really is from a local treasurer's point of view, regarding to making sure that my reporting, monthly reporting, the board meeting is spot on. How often do we get a statement of our trust fund, what's in there? No, I haven't got it.
We're trying to figure out if you're north or south in the conference, but we've
Bedford Central.
Yeah, so just in both conferences, you should be able to contact, in my case, Pauline, and she will. I mean, she'll try to send them out regularly, but if you need an ad hoc one in between the regular periods that she sends them out, then you're free to contact her at any time, and she'll print one off and send it to you. Or we're in a situation now. Wedley's is a bit of a wizard with packages and software, so he's working with a company to set up a system that will allow us to put in your local treasurer's email addresses. Email addresses, and then we'll be able to ping this statement straight off to you, just a click of a few buttons. So that's probably a couple months away. Wait, about a month away, would you say? Yeah, about a month away with that. So at that point, he tells me he has work to do at the TED as well. I don't believe him, but we still use him in the SEC somewhat anyway. Don't tell Leonard, Victor, and Graham when you go back to the TD office. But yeah, we will soon be, and then we'll obviously share that with the NEC if I'm sure they'll be interested in that facility as well. We pay for it, but we will share that technology with you as well. So we're hoping that within a month we should be able to just automatically send you monthly statements.
Yeah, my question is not so much a financial one. I think it's more of an ethical one. Is there anything ethically wrong with a church using premium bonds as investment?
I'll pass that over to Victor. You haven't answered any questions yet, Victor. Premium bonds as an investment.
I gave you the answer at supper the other night. What's another one?
You didn't like the answer.
You didn't like the answer I gave you at supper the other night?
Okay. Generally speaking, premium bonds, essentially invest your money with the government, and instead of getting interest, now and again, you win something. Your number comes up, and you win something. So in a sense, you're not actually losing the principal, and in that sense, it's not entirely gambling. You're gambling on the interest. And I guess at a time when actually you're getting nothing anyway from the banks, you could argue you may as well. I guess that the challenge, I think, I hope I'm going to say the same thing as I said at supper time. The challenge we have, I guess, is in our example, ethical investment. And for many people, they would regard premium bonds or lottery cards or what have you, again, as speculative. Yeah. And the example of making speculative investment is something that we would not encourage our members to do, generally. And so, in general, I would say we avoid it. Now, if you're amongst those who, you've got some power prayers in your church and they can influence Ernie to make sure the numbers come out in our favour, then there may be. So I would avoid them myself, but I would equally say they're probably not ethically wrong. You could argue that you're investing in the state, the public and the society, and in general that is for the good. As much as anywhere else. So from an ethical perspective, but I think in the example, as an example, we would not encourage it. Not generally good. By the same token, there is always a risk involved in every form of investment. That's probably a bearable risk, but probably not a recommendable one. Is that political enough, Graham?
Say it was wrong.
Was that a hand at the back or are you just stretching?
You mentioned about audit. I know we are all trustworthy and reliable. My church, for example, has not been audited for over 2 years. I don't know for the others. Mine is a small church. So I don't know what's the church policy in terms of auditing the churches, because if something goes wrong, it will carry on for the next 2 years. Now I'm the 3rd year, and the auditors have not visited yet. So, yeah.
I mean, in terms of the policy requires us to audit local congregations regularly. What we do, we tend to audit the larger congregations annually, and then the smaller congregations maybe once in 2 years, or as the resources are available. I know we really need to be auditing churches annually, but practically the resources are limited and we can only do so much in 1 year.
Following the question that was asked about whether churches would invest on the premium bond or whatever it is. Some time ago, my brother was here from the state. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but what he told me, he says, why do the church says that we shouldn't gamble, and then GC is investing on the stock exchange? And whether that is right, that GC should invest on the stock exchange. Now, whether they're doing it or not, I don't know. Maybe Victor can answer that question. And was asking the question whether it is right that the GC should invest on the stock exchange.
It's right that the GC invests in the stock exchange.
Sorry?
They do it, and it's right. Yeah. I think the church has fairly clear policies on this. What we say is that we should not be speculating on the stock exchange. So the idea of speculating on the stock exchange, and the stock exchange is a representation of the value of the companies in our society. So you're buying shares in Sainsbury's and Marks and Spencer's and all the places that we shop at every day. So when you spend your money in these stores, you're also investing in all of these companies, these large companies. Now, speculating, in other words, taking money, putting it in today in the hope that the money will go up by tomorrow or in a short term, that's a form of gambling. You know, you're taking a chance. The history is that investment in the companies of our society, and we try and invest in ethical companies, or companies that do the things that we think are right, and are certainly not against the things we don't like, and that's a very, very difficult argument. You know, is a science, needs to be done carefully, under advice from people that really know what they're doing. So the General Conference itself does have a department that invests significant amounts of money for the long term in a spread portfolio of companies. Equally, if this will really make your day and make you happy, the pension fund of the British Union Conference also has a spread of investments advised by our actuaries and investment consultants. Some, in fact, at the moment, 70% in ethical equities and some in government gilts. So under advice, without speculation. Now, in general, the policy is that provision requires the permission of the General Conference, or at least in our case the division through the General Conference, to follow these strategies with the correct advice. The policy is essentially that as you come down towards the conference and to the local churches, that in general we don't. Our policy is that we should not actually be hoarding resources. Our resources are there for a purpose, and if the purpose is identified, then we exist and build resources. So yes, the church does use the investment vehicles available to it, but under very clear guidance, spreading the portfolio across the companies that are available, and choosing the best ethical options that we can. So it is true. And the good news for me, at least for some of us, was that when the results of the election came out on Friday, the value of our pension fund went up 800,000 in one day. Thank you for voting the way you did. May the Lord eternally bless you. But that comes back to trust in society. The value of and confidence that we have in our society and in companies. It is about confidence and trust. And when confidence and trust is there, the value of everything that we do goes up. So you can't beat the market. You might get more in your pocket today, but you'll get less tomorrow. That's how economy is. And so, I just thought I'd bring that one in to cheer you up.
So Harold Wilson's statement was correct. When he was asked the question about if the money was worth today the same as it was yesterday, he said, as long as you keep your pound in your pocket. Same pound, it's worth the same today as it was yesterday, as long as you don't try and use it. Yeah. So keep voting the right way as a political statement, and the pound will continue to rise.
Can I see hands of those who still have questions, because we need to have a break and then come back for the final session. How many hands? There's 2 here. Any others? So we'll take these two hands, then we'll break off for a few minutes.
My question is on gift aid. I know Victor said something about it in his presentation, but I have a problem of what to say to one member who always says, I try to encourage her to, to sign on to gift aid, but she says, no, it's not ethical because the church will be tied to government. So I don't know how do I, I've tried to answer her in several ways, but I don't seem to get the right answer. What would one say?
So the question for those who didn't hear it is, if you join gift aid in your particular church, the members apprehensive because she feels in some way that she'll be identified or connected to the government in some way. The current gift aid system, since gift aid 2000, I think, Victor, it changed from the old deed of covenant where they did want a lot of onerous details, national insurance details, your tax office district details, all those kind of things, which does zero into very meaningfully and tangibly. Since 2000, gift aid came into being. All you need to do now is just name, address even, Amy?
Postcode.
Michelle? Postcode, and you just sign a declaration and say, yes, please claim back the gift aid, 25p in the pound, 2.6 million pounds coming back to the church as far as the South England Conference was concerned last year. They're already in some way starting to rein it back already, to reducing the amount. We used to be able to go back 6 years. That is now only 5 years. That has that's now only 4 years. For the South England Conference, that has reduced it already by about between 180 and 200,000 pounds. Additionally, when the government, bless them, reduces our tax rate, it's nice because we pay less tax, don't we? But gift aid is based on basic rate tax. So as the tax rate goes down, that means, so from the last tax rate drop, we moved from 28 pence in the pound to 25 pence in the pound. So 3 pence in the pound for every, that alone also reduced our gift aid comeback by another couple £100,000. While this dispensation is here, we don't know how long it's going to last. Many charities or other charities benefit from lottery funding. Obviously, we don't apply for those type of funding because we don't, as Victor just talked about, the gambling ethos. Well, we would be double standards if we were to accept those funds. But lots of charities benefit from those work. The government recognises the tremendous work that we do as charities, not just the religious charities, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but all the charities in this country. And as in recognition of the tremendous work that we do, and in many ways, work that they should be funding, they said, well, we're happy for the voluntary sector to do it, and we're going to give you back 25p in a pound for the people who donate to your cause. The government is providing the means to help us with our work. We need to embrace it. We need to enhance it. So many projects within our conference would not have happened if it wasn't for gift aid. How many churches now have a church when they wouldn't have had it? Victor wants to add as well.
See, this comes back to my point. Who's making these people afraid of the government? Which preachers go out there and start making us all fear our own society? But it's wrong. Once you start, and every church I go to, this comes up, we fear the government. We fear that people will do this to us, that. It just isn't that way. And sometimes we're the victims of our own story, and that own story causes the poverty that we experience. You know, and you know, it actually hurts me. I feel pain for my church when I see my people being so suspicious. Oh, you know, coming to get us. I grew up in Adventist schools. I tell you what, I've been whipped as much as that other fellow by Adventist preachers. Never once been touched by the police, but Adventist pastors, they whip my behind like nothing else. So, you know, after that, I'm not afraid of any of them. Believe me, let's build confidence. Confidence amongst our people. You know, that we can do the right thing and we can make a difference. For me, that's the big thing.
What's the current interest rate on the 90-day account, and is it still better than the trust fund account?
Just to explain what we have in our trust account. In the South of the conference, we give interest on the trust account. Maybe, yeah, I will. Because of the huge drop in interest, at the moment, the differentials are minimal. We're actually applying the same interest rates. I'm actually planning to write out to all the half a dozen churches that still have a 90-day account and just ask them permission to just merge it with their trust accounts now. At the moment, we're giving, Giles over there, or was over there, he's busy trying to manage those funds to get as high an interest return as you can from the funds that we have in your trust account. And at any given moment in time, at the moment, we have about between 6 and 7 million in our conferences churches trust accounts. He looks across the market. He targets the top 10, top 12 banks, and gets as high interest rates as he can to lock it in for a year, 18 months, etc. At the moment, to answer your question, it's about 1%. We do the calculations, average out over the year, and apply it in one go at the end of the year, but it's about 1% at the moment. It's very, I mean, HSBC, who we used to bank with, have all our funds with, they refuse to give anything more than base rate, which is a half of 1%, 0.5%. So we've had to move away from HSBC to get a better return. But at the moment, it's only about 1%. You know, it's like gift aid. Base rate drops, we all benefit because we pay less tax. Interest rates drops, yes, we get less returns, but you all pay less mortgage. Yes? Interest.